Are you tired of being a noob? That you just hate when your friends are constantly flexing their unspoken riz on the behemoths while you lay on the ground like a sack of meat waiting to be revitalized? Aren't you tired of seeing big damage numbers but realizing that when your friend isn't there, your confidence dies because your big numbers are suddenly not so big? Do you randomly trip, all and end up being left and forgotten in the midst of battle? Well, this is not the guide for you because we don't raise sissies on this channel. Now if you're looking to show these slayers what a real man looks like, then this is the guide for you. And yes, women can be men too.
Hey guys, Soul here. So I've spent 1 week on a new account while Epic Game Support worked on recovering my main account, and I decided that I wanted to take you guys along the journey. The reason I did so was to document how much I'd be able to accomplish within the matter of 1 week. Obviously I have the free time and the means to accomplish the goals that I did, but nonetheless the methods I used were still efficient enough methods that I was able to progress from just creating my account to working on an endgame build by day 4 or 5. Also, I wouldn't want to continue without crediting everyone who assisted and or spent time with me along the process. Without you guys, this would have been a lot more miserable than it was. And I know not everyone has friends or is able to make friends, or maybe you just want to be solo, and that's totally okay. But this will still work for you at the cost of a couple extra hours. But I wanted to take this opportunity to announce that I will soon be working on a Discord not only for Dauntless, but for those that want to meet new people or maybe want to be a part of a community where they feel comfortable and like they belong. It will take me some time to get this together, but I also promise as soon as it's done, I will promote it and anyone will be free to join. I want to expand my community and make memories not only for myself, but for everyone involved, like the ones I did within these 7 days. If you're interested in following my content and helping build a strong, loving, and inclusive community, then feel free to subscribe and look out for my Discord coming soon. I'll be trying to do daily live streams as well. They will be from 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So look out for those as well if you want to chat and hang out while I not only stream Dauntless content, but countless other things as well as whatever you guys want to suggest, along with being able to ask me questions, chat, or just listen live. Anyways, that is all for this intro. I know it's a bit lengthy, but let's get into the video. Alright, so step 1, leveling. This is where we all start, is at level 1. We'll call this stage the Scout. As a Scout, you'll be learning the ropes. The first thing you're tasked with is to find what weapons suit your hand. Our first weapon would be Sword. The balance of mobility, attack speed, damage, and just pure chaos. This is usually where everyone goes to as a beginner because it has everything you would believe you need. It's a great weapon, definitely for those of you who like to jump around. This will suit you in the long run because it is meant to be a sort of all-around weapon. Our second weapon would be Warpike. Thrust, 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 spin, dodge, spin. The legendary combo of almost any Warpike main out there. To start off this buffet of ass whooping you're gonna serve these behemoths, you must learn the basics. White equals core damage, yellow equals part damage, blue equals stagger damage, and red? Well, red is gonna be wound, the appetizer of all appetizers when it comes to this weapon. Once you've successfully wounded a behemoth, go straight for the spin to win. Not talking to you, swordmans. This will be the vital combo that allows you to deal your numbers in ungodly amounts. Great for those of you that like simple but effective. Axe, if you ever hear the words charge out on the battlefield, just know these guys are the creators and they don't take it lightly. I mean seriously, their light attack is the equivalent to telling your sibling you barely tapped them knowing damn well you threw them out the window of a 3-story building. If you like heavy and harsh, this is for you. Just be warned that this all comes at the cost of attack speed. Not movement speed, just attack speed. Repeaters, the kings or queens of scouting. They sit back and watch the show to a whole other level, except instead of watching, they're the reason you got 20 kills with only 200 damage. Thank you, repeater mains, for making us look good. If you like to be supportive whilst also being a damage dealing machine, then bring your guns to the claw fight. Next, Aether Strikers. If you ever thought about being a JoJo stan with the ability to obliterate your opponents with the legendary Kamehameha, or to clap them like Hulk clapped Loki, then you've made the right choice. Hammer. If you've ever heard of the hare and the tortoise, then you would know that when side by side with the hammer main, you're right next to the legendary tortoise's students. Kung Fu Panda who? Not you if you sleep on hammer. Ever heard of the word bonk, 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 bonk? They created it, Axeman stole it, and almost everyone uses it. The most slept on weapon within this game would absolutely make you look like a fool if you give them the right build. Let's not even mention the fact that they serve up the world's most palate destroying meatballs to ever exist. Slow and steady wins the race if you're a hammer main, just know you've already won. Chain blades. All speed, no damage, everyone says. You can say what you want about us, but just know, if this was a battle royale game, we would shadow step slam you before you could even say bonk. Sword may take the cake when it comes to balance, but hidden under everything, chainblade mains are the Pisces of your astrology chart, mastering the sayings flow like water or fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Chainblade beginners pull their weight just as much as you 3 Reforge axe mains. Once you've decided which weapon you want to take along this journey, you can get started with your leveling process. Make sure to complete any quest required for progressing. Anything else after you fully unlock the ability to roam freely on hunting grounds is totally up to you to complete. Craft anything that you're able to once you've started, and begin working on leveling your weapon to 20, which is the max level you can achieve before you have to reforge. Make sure you're constantly checking your Slayer's path and unlocking all the islands that are available to be unlocked. Also make sure you are crafting armor and weapons that you're able to as you progress. Another tip I would give is making sure that you're reading everything. If you aren't reading, you will be lost and will struggle later on when it comes to making your actual build. Alright, now we'll be talking about your first grind weapon. Now that you've chosen the type of weapon you want and have started leveling, you will now be left with choosing the element you want to work with and what behemoth you want to have a weapon from. You can obviously be versatile and change elements depending on what element you're going against. That's fairly time consuming in the sense of only needing one weapon from one element, then working to achieve the legendary version of that element. So to assist in your choice, I will give you my personal best weapons for each element. Shock would be Savit's weapon, and at an earlier stage, Drask. Blaze would be Helion's weapon, and at an earlier stage, it can either be Charog or Embermane. Umbral would be Shroud or Riftstalker. Riftstalker would be earlier stage, but is also very good towards the endgame. Terra would be Skarn for shield builds, Karabak and Koshai. These could all be used early game and end game. Frost would be Frostwolf, Pangar, and Boreas. All can be used early game and end game. Radiant would be Rezakiri, and early game would be Valamir. Now your starter grind set. Once you have decided on what weapons you want to use, you now want to start working on a certain armor set, and this is all based on the player and what they're looking for. There are many videos online that talk about good starter builds. There's a subreddit for builds, and I will create a Discord where I will put all my builds, old and new. So to recap, we start at the scout stage, finding our weapon of choice. Then we started leveling, making sure we unlocked all our islands on the way, traveling to all of them to make sure we're getting as much XP as we can. In the midst of all that, you will be choosing your weapon element of choice, as well as the behemoth from which you choose to craft a weapon from. Also making sure we're putting a build together that suits our needs. Next would be lantern crafting. So, two sections that are vital that I forgot are lantern crafting and omnicell crafting. So I'll go quickly over these two sections, just describing what everything does and what it's best paired with. Drask's Eye fires a lightning bolt in a direction that deals 400 shock damage multiple times as it passes through enemies. Good to pair with shock weapons, also a great way to increase the chance of stunning your enemies. Embermane's Rapture. Create a fireball in front of you that explodes after 4 seconds, dealing 3,250 blaze damage to all nearby enemies. Good to pair with blaze weapons, also good if you have staggered an enemy and need to do an explosive amount of damage in a short period of time. Koshai's Bloom. Dash in a direction, deal 2,250 terra damage to nearby behemoths upon arrival, and gain 15% lifesteal for 10 seconds. Good to pair with terra weapons, also good as a second method of evasion if you need a quick way to get out of a situation. Pangar's Shine. Create a frost pillar in front of you that deals 2,500 frost damage to nearby enemies over 10 seconds. Good to pair with frost weapons, also great for increasing your chance of chilling a behemoth and slowing them down. Also good for part breaks and immense amounts of damage over time. Shrike Zeal. Creates an aura that grants nearby slayers 15% increased move speed and attack speed for 10 seconds. Good to pair with any weapon. Great for impulse builds. Good to pair with Tempest on a Tempest build. Great for speed builds. Good to pair with Hammer and Axe to increase the attack speed. Skarn's Defiance. Surrounds the slayer in swirling stone that deals 2,500 terra damage to nearby enemies over 10 seconds. Also generates 30 hit point shields per second that expire after 25 seconds. Max shields can be 600 but can be increased when using the Aegis cell at +4 and above. Good to pair with the Skarn weapon and Bastion for the maximum shield gain, plus the ability to do massive amounts of damage when you use your Bastion slam with a large quantity of shield available. Broadside's Lantern. Drop a bomb from above that explodes after 1 second, deals 2,750 damage and can interrupt behemoths. Good for extra damage if needed. Recruit's Lantern. Grants a 300 hit point shield, doesn't stack. Next, we'll go on to omnicell crafting. Bastion. Its passive is to increase all shields received by 15%. Dealing damage has a chance based on damage dealt to grant a stacking, refreshing 25 shield that lasts for 25 seconds. Max 500 shields. Active ability would be to leap forward and slam on the ground, consuming all the shields and the blast of energy that deals terra damage to nearby targets equal to 200% of the amount of shields consumed. 20-second cooldown. Good for shield builds, can only be paired with the Skarn's Defiance Lantern. Iceborne. Its passive is that it increases health by 100. Gain 1% lifesteal and 5% reduced damage, then again for every 150 missing health. Taking damage reduces the cooldown of the active ability by 5 seconds, only once every 5 seconds. The active ability. Throw an Ice Lance that does 750 frost damage, double damage if thrown at full health, also prevents you from being staggered and grants 10% increased lifesteal for 8 seconds, and the cooldown is 60 seconds. Iceborne is good for tank builds or if you just need a bit of extra protection and lifesteal. Great when paired with the Frost weapon and Pangar's Shine Lantern. Can be paired with anything else. Discipline, its passive is critical strike chance and damage is increased by 8%. Healing is reduced by 50%. Reaching max stacks of Flaming Fist makes you disciplined, increasing your critical strike chance by 50% for 40 seconds, also increasing damage received by 100%. When discipline ends, stacks are cleared. The active ability is that it performs a quick parrying punch that deals 200 blaze damage. Parrying an attack does plus 300% damage and grants a stack of Flaming Fist, giving 4% critical strike damage. This can stack 4 times, 17-second cooldown. Amazing for crit builds, even better as a parrying Omnicell. Can also be used as an extra dodge, can be paired with anything. Better if used with Shrike's Zeal Lantern and an Impulse crit build. Tempest. The passive for Tempest is that you gain a 10% increased attack speed. And dodging through an attack grants a stack of velocity. Each stack lasts 45 seconds and increases movement speed by 3%. Max stack is 5. The active ability is that it consumes a stack of velocity to dash ahead and deal 450 shock damage to a nearby target, prioritizing unbroken behemoth parts. 6 second cooldown. For every 1% increase in movement speed, deal 3% damage to unbroken parts. Stacks are refreshed on use. Good for speed, heartbreak, crit, and damage builds. Best when paired with Strike Zeal, Lantern, Sharpened, Pulse, and any movement speed cell of your choosing. Revenant. Its passive is 2% lifesteal. When Revenant state ends, each stack of void energy grants 115% or 115 health per second for 10 seconds. The active ability, drain up to 500 health to enter Revenant state and spawn a void orb. For every 100 health drained, summon an Umbral Tendril that deals 700 Umbral damage. If an Umbral Tendril hits a target, it spawns an additional Void Orb upon impact. Picking up a Void Orb grants a stack of Void Energy, which gives 4% damage and extends Revenant State by 1 second. Revenant State lasts for 15 seconds and prevents all healing. And it has a 10-second cooldown. This can be paired with anything, best when used for damage/crit damage builds. For extra insurance, use Skarn's Defiance to ensure you have the protection needed for using. Artificer, or Artificer, however you'd like to pronounce it. Its passive is amount of healing and shielding granted per second is increased by 1 for every 150 current shield when activated. Its active ability is to send your drone to a target to have it perform one of 4 actions. Action 1. Revivable Slayer, revive and give a Slayer the Artificer aura for 15 seconds. Can only perform this revive once every 90 seconds. Slayers in the Artificer aura restore 10 health per second. If health is full, a stackable 10 shield is granted per second. Health shield lasts for 25 seconds. The max shield is 400. The second action is cleanse the targeted Slayer of status effects and grant them the Artificer aura for 15 seconds. The third action, mark a behemoth part to take 15% damage from all sources for 15 seconds. The fourth action, surround an area with a radiant wall for 15 seconds. Radiant wall blocks hostile projectiles and beams and applies the Artificer aura to all Slayers within 20-second cooldown. One thing that can be noted is that if there's a shockwave such as say Torgadoro shockwave, Chronivore shockwave, Urska shockwave, or anything, any type of shockwave, Artificer cannot block that. It will go right through. This is good for those that like to sit back and support the team, best for repeater mains due to the fact that they have a good overview of all slayers and don't have to get close to the behemoth to do damage, meaning they also don't have to get close to heal or revive. For full support, best paired with Agorist Axe and Strike Seal Lantern for other slayers in the group. Now, for the next part, we will be talking about self-farming. Now we're getting close to being where we want to be with our build. But wait, there are a bunch of empty slots you don't have anything to put in them. Those would be cell slots. These are what will decide the final outcome of your build and how strong or weak it will be. I'm sure a lot of people may be asking, what is the fastest way to farm cells? Well, I have methods for early game and mid game players. At this point, you should have a decent build set up and you're looking to finalize it, or you're working on a build. At this stage, we'll call it the hunter stage. Not yet a master slayer, but getting closer. For you scouts, if you want to try to farm cells early game, and even for mid and late game players, you can vert hop. I found this method whilst working on my second account because patience isn't my strong suit. Vert hopping consists of doing public hunts, moving from island to island trying to find an active or potential island event. I tweaked the method just a little bit to ensure I wasn't missing any potential loot and skipping right past as an event was about to go off. So we start at Revelation Rock, the third island you unlock. Once you've loaded in, go first, scout and see if anyone is in the server before you run off going to aimlessly try and complete the second step. Sometimes you can't see other slayers and that's okay. You can either move to step 3 or continue with step 2, which would be going in and killing 1 or 2 behemoths. If no events spawn in and instead you just see another behemoth pop up after you have slain your 2 behemoths, then it's safe to move on to step 3. However, if an event pops up and you have now begun self-farming, finish the event and pick up your reward and move on to step 3. Step 3 would be moving to the next island, Restless Sands, repeating steps 1, 1.5, and 2. Then we move on to Iron Falls, repeat, then Sunderstone and repeat, and finally Ulrich's Peak and repeat. Now that you've completed all 3 steps and moved through all 5 islands, you may now cycle back to Revelation Rock and repeat that process until you've reached your desired amount of self cores. Method 2 would be farming the Paradox Breaks, a Lyra Island event. This is mostly for mid/late game players due to the difficulty of Paradox Breaks in and of itself. Method 3, mostly for late game players, but can potentially be for mid game players if you try hard enough, is doing Blazeworks. Blazeworks has an island event that can be easily started after killing 1 behemoth and turning all the valves around the island. This would be the most rewarding option, but also the most time consuming if you don't have a proper build or at least a proper team. The definition of high risk, high reward. You can buy cores from the trial shop, but that's just an absolute waste of steel and gold marks. You can also vert hop mid-game in later islands than the other ones mentioned in method 1, but that's just the fastest due to the low health of each behemoth and also how many players are actively using the method, so you'll queue in pretty quickly. You will earn cell cores over time, which will come from your progression and sometimes from slaying certain behemoths in hunting grounds. Extra tips. You will need a lot of rams, combat merits, aether sparks, and bounty tokens. The self-farming method will help with that a lot, but the biggest help will be farming patrol chest. If you want to farm patrol chests, you need patrol keys, which you can buy from the reward cache with your reward cache currency, or you can buy them with platinum as well as earn them from the daily cell cores. The biggest method for them right now would be Frostfall gifts. Really, any event that comes up would be a good way to farm patrol keys because a lot of the gifts will have a chance to drop them. Now, we will be talking about legendary weapons and armor. For the final parts of your build, you will need to achieve your legendary weapons. This is where all your choices from the start of your journey come into play. You will be allowed to farm a legendary weapon that you can use and bond your current weapon with to maintain its special effects and cell choice, as well as giving you the ability to put any cells of your choice into the prismatic slots within your legendary weapon, and also have a legendary ability. Here are your options and how they will affect the outcomes of your battles. Shock. Gain the ability to teleport to a behemoth, dealing shock damage, also gaining the chance to stun the behemoth, leaving them immobile, allowing you to take advantage of the opportunity and deal as much damage as possible, even stun locking or killing it depending on the strength of your build. You cannot stun shock behemoths. The ability cooldown is 2 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. Blaze. Gain the ability to become enraged and unlock on Torgadoro's Fist, allowing you to punch, ground pound, and do an evasive leap. This lasts for 15 seconds, and this time your attacks will be able to deal 25% increased damage to behemoths that are below 50% health. You also have the chance of making behemoths burst into flames, causing them to take blaze damage over time. Blaze behemoths will not take blaze damage. Ability cooldown is 1.5 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. Umbral allows you to gain the ability to teleport into the sky, causing an explosion of umbral damage to behemoths nearby and possibly interrupting them if timed correctly. While in the sky, you can choose a spot to slam down onto, causing another explosion of umbral damage. You can also gain the chance to poison the behemoths, causing them to take damage over time. Umbral behemoths don't take umbral damage. The ability cooldown is 2 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. Terra allows you to gain the ability to revive downed teammates and yourself, also allowing everyone within the radius to heal over time and be immune to stagger. Attacks can have a chance to proc a Terra effect on behemoths, allowing each attack to generate health orbs that heal the slayer with the least amount of health. Terra behemoths can't be affected by this. The ability cooldown is 5 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. Frost allows you to gain the ability to create a frost shield that allows you to interrupt a behemoth or block incoming projectiles and beams. This is not effective when it comes to shockwaves or regular attacks, such as shockwaves meaning Torgadoro, Chronovore, Urska, as I said before. Also gain the ability to place your frost shield on a behemoth and cause them to be chilled, which slows them down temporarily. Frost behemoths cannot be chilled. Ability cooldown is 3.5 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. Radiant allows you to gain the ability to rewind your position by 3 seconds and regain health and stamina lost within those 3 seconds, as well as remove any debuffs obtained prior to activation. After activation, obtain a shield that negates all damage besides unstable umbral explosions, and gain increased movement speed, all for 6 seconds. You may also revive yourself while downed using your ability. The ability cooldown is 1.5 minutes or until a behemoth is slain. All of these have legendary armor sets which can be crafted with them, which will be used in a majority of your endgame builds. Reaching the endgame of Dauntless. You have now reached the Slayer stage, and honestly you still have much to do, but you're finally at a point where you can officially say you've reached endgame. But the true endgame of Dauntless is being able to make as many builds as you want, helping other Slayers in the community, unlocking all the weapons, improving on things to perfect your Slayer abilities, and officially being able to call yourself a Master Slayer. This title shouldn't be taken lightly and should only be used to help and progress to be even better. You have now reached the end of the video, and before you go, I would like to thank everyone for the recent support.